This video will explain how to create a mechanical layout for a macro unit. To begin, let's understand that a macro unit is a very large unit of scripture, usually a chapter, several chapters in length, that is a discourse, that is, it's developing a very broad idea through a series of paragraphs. Each of the paragraphs would be a base unit, and then the paragraphs will combine together into a broader kind of discourse. You might think about writing a 5-paragraph theme. Many of you may have done that in high school. A 5-paragraph theme is a complete theme or discourse that is created with 5 paragraphs. And you might recall that the first paragraph is designed primarily as an introduction where you identify what it is you're going to try to accomplish. Then you have 3 paragraphs that develop this thesis or idea that you have. And the final paragraph is used to draw everything to a conclusion and maybe add some implications about this theme. Well, in scripture, we don't have 5-paragraph themes, but we do have these broader discourses that are found in the various epistles of the New Testament. That's where we're studying. To diagram them, you have different rules and, in a sense, different goals than you do in analyzing a single paragraph or a base unit. You see in front of you a macro analysis or a mechanical layout of a macro unit. What you're looking at are the first 2 chapters in the book of Hebrews. There are a number of things to keep in mind. First, in macro analysis, we cannot include all of the text that is found in the scriptures. Think about Google Maps. In Google Maps, as you zoom out further and further, you see less detail. If you zoom in, you'll see individual little streets and little villages and hamlets, but you don't see that kind of detail when you zoom out. Instead, the only thing that'll be left is the major cities possibly in the area, and then maybe some large interstate highways that connect these cities together. In the same way, when you're creating a macro mechanical layout, you are like zooming out. You're only seeing the very important ideas and the links between those ideas that make these smaller units fit together. If you looked at the video of how to create a mechanical layout of a base unit, we did Hebrews chapter 2, verses 1 to 5. You'll notice that in this macro analysis, Hebrews 2, 1 to 5 is reduced to a single sentence. In the middle of this analysis, you'll see it says, therefore, we must pay more attention to what we heard. That's the only thing that's going to be left of that whole base unit. But you might recall that that is the most important idea that is found in verses 2, 1 to 4 of Hebrews chapter 2. If you go to the top of this macro analysis, you'll notice that it begins at chapter 1, verse 2. God has spoken to us by his Son. What was found at verse 1 is in a sense, contrast by way of introduction to this statement, where God spoke to us in the past through his prophets, but in these last days, God has spoken by his Son. And this is the big idea that we have in the opening part of Hebrews chapter 1. When we come to verse 4 of Hebrews chapter 1, the writer turns and he says, so he, that is the Son, became superior to the angels. And from verse 4 through the rest of the chapter, we notice that there is an emphasis on angels, as well as a continued emphasis on this Son. The Son is contrasted to angels. Angels, well, they're just servants that minister to individual people. But the Son is God himself. And so we have this contrast between the Son and angels. Finally, as we come into chapter 2, we have that key thought. Therefore, we must pay more attention to what we heard. If I go all the way back to the beginning of chapter 1, God has spoken by his Son. He's superior to even angels. Therefore, we must pay more attention to what we have heard. And then the passage goes on through the rest of chapter 2 in talking again about Jesus, his relationship to angels. Though he was for a while made lower than the angels, he's crowned with glory. He is bringing many sons into glory. But if you compare this layout with the 2 chapters in the book of Hebrews, you'll see that it's a tremendous reduction. We've only retained the most important ideas. However, you will notice that there is an attempt in this macro analysis to show the relationship of the individual parts to the whole, fuller message of the 2 chapters. And so we use some graphics to identify the links between the various features that are found in these 2 chapters. There are some breakout boxes. And you recall that when you did your analysis of the base units, you were also asked to write a summary sentence of what that base unit was all about. In this macro layout, those summary sentences are reduced to breakout boxes with just topical ideas. So we have the divinity of the Son, the superiority to angels, lower than angels, and so forth. The purpose of this macro analysis is to visually demonstrate and show what is the overall design of the larger unit. And the problem that we have in understanding the overall flow of a large passage is that there's just too many trees to see the forest. So we have to eliminate the lesser ideas and retain only the main ideas, and then show how those main ideas are linked together by the author using various literary devices. I hope this is helpful in helping you to see exactly how to create a mechanical layout for a macro unit.